Hey Scrappers, it's Tom from the iScrap app, and wherever you're watching us this week, we welcome you to our weekly report, where you can learn about scrap metal prices, news, ask us questions about materials, or ask our advice on the markets. If you're looking to ask those questions, ask us whether it's live or after, and we'll always get you those answers. Come on in, let's go talk scrap. Hey Scrappers, it's me, Tom from the iScrap app, and today is Wednesday the 15th. And again, I'm super pumped to be here. It almost seems like I'm in like an episode of Groundhog's Day. Remember that movie with Bill Murray? Just wake up and every day it's the same thing. I mean, other than my shirt being different, I love talking to you. I love hearing your questions. I love hearing your responses. I love hearing your reactions. And I want to hear about problems that you're having in the scrap metal world. This way we can talk about some things and make things a little more transparent than they were last week. Don't forget, if you're looking to get some new DeWalt tools, we are looking to give them away. And this month we have a license plate competition coming up. We're getting a new vehicle at the scrapyard, and we're leaving it up to you, the scrapper, to give us some ideas to fit a, what is it, 7 characters? Seven characters on the license plate. So it's a scrap themed license plate. We're going to have 2 winners. We're going to have the number 1 voted license plate, and then we're going to have the license plate that we can actually register with the DMV. This way we get a couple of winners out there, but we got some cool DeWalt tools. So make sure you submit your ideas. So here we are with our new 2.0 out there. We have new reported prices being pushed every single day. It gives us the ability to see where the markets are. We always like to talk about the markets. So in the last few days, I've read a whole bunch of articles from major companies talking about problems that they're having inside of regular day-to-day business. I read an article earlier today. It was talking about aluminum can manufacturers, steel manufacturers, and I even talked about a birdhouse manufacturer that made it with steel. And what they all talked about was one of the biggest problems that they're having right now, and that's getting material consistently. Example, I ordered some new dumpsters for the scrapyard. We ordered them back in April with a 4-month delivery. We got them 6 weeks late. And on top of that, we had a 15% increase in the prices because the steel markets changed so much. So that has affected not only big dumpsters, but buildings and cars and different things that are being built. And these are supply crunches that I don't see going anywhere anytime soon for the rest of 2021 and the first half of 2022. We're going to have a couple of blogs and podcasts coming out talking about catalytic converter market. But what we've seen is such a supply crunch due to the microprocessors or the lack of material coming out there. Things are really getting tangled up. Do I blame the current administration? Yeah, kind of I do, because I think that a lot of their policies have contributed to it. But I also blame the world because we're in such a weird time period right now where ships aren't getting unloaded fast enough, things aren't moving out fast enough, and it's affecting scrap. Now, on the steel side of things, I expected to see about a $30 to $50 drop per ton in the month of September. Here we are halfway through the month. We didn't really see that drop. We actually started to see a little more of an increase. One of the reasons is that it's become so expensive to move material, whether it's across oceans, on railways, that recycled products have been much easier to get and much easier to repurpose and make them into new steel. So we've seen those prices stabilize when we expected a price drop this month due to a large amount of material that was sold throughout the summer. So that's really good news. What's not going to be good news is, as a consumer, when we start to see some of these prices ticking up in the coming months. I mean, I saw last month consumer price index, and if you don't know what that is, that just kind of compares prices month over month, year over year. We saw prices up from August 2020 to August 2021 of a 5.3% increase. So if you were paying $100 for something last year, that same item is going to cost over $105 today. Now, those are bad market trends, because if you didn't have a 5% increase in wages, then you're going to be losing money year over year. And unfortunately, that is just the month of August that we're talking about. So we're really interested to see what happens at the end of the year when you compare 2020 to 2021, because we're expecting to see an overall price increase of between 7 and 11%, because some months have been in the 8 to 9% increase year over year. And these are things that are going to be affected by high commodity prices. And I mean, look at aluminum hitting 13-year highs. And in my very humble opinion, we haven't seen aluminum slow down because more people are moving towards aluminum, whether it's wind turbine manufacturers for the different conduits, the blades, the wire that they're going to use. Car manufacturers like Ford having their aluminum body frames and door panels and making the vehicles lighter. This way they can get increased fuel efficiency. Cell phone manufacturers, Apple has it in their iPads, their different laptops, their desktops. Aluminum is being used so much more that the value is going to continue to increase, because what we're seeing is can manufacturers are having a hard time getting finished products. And we've talked about the tariffs in the past. Right now, the tariffs actually could be hurting the overall prices because we can't produce enough material inside of the country to kind of quench the thirst or the hunger of all of the metal that's desired right now. So we got a question. Let's jump into that.
Not a question, but a comment from Andy.
Hey, Andy.
Aluminum is going to be the new copper. What are your thoughts on that?
I do think that it has a lot of truth to it, Andy. Aluminum could be the new copper. Though I don't think that it's going to be similarly priced because it's much more abundant. But I do think that aluminum could become the new copper. Copper prices, even though we saw a dip a few weeks ago of like 35 cents in those 3 or 4 days, they've rebounded right back to where they are. Their elasticity really was very strong. And all of the articles that I read about are talking about increased demand. Now, while I disagree with the current presidential administration on a lot of different topics, I also don't dislike how they're kind of pushing this EV market. This electric vehicle, wind, and solar push are going to drive the demand for commodities such as copper and aluminum even higher than they already are. Now, what I don't like about that is what we might see is an inflated value and an inflated demand for about a 2-year period. And if we don't see the demand and then the new products like the electric vehicles, the solar, the wind really kicking into high gear, we're going to be paying more money for natural gas. The electricity that we're paying for at our house is going to go up because it's not going to be powered through these renewable energy sources like solar and wind, but it's going to be powered by natural gas and coal plants, which will just cause a little bit of a change in the markets and a change in how things are done. But I do believe that for the rest of 2021 and for all of 2022, we are going to really see a booming metals market on the base industrial metals, the ABCs, I like to call them: aluminum, brass, copper, and steel. Now, you didn't hear me talk about gold or silver, or platinum or palladium or rhodium. This PG metal group, these PGM metal groups, these precious metal groups like gold, they're not going to be nearly as impacted as the day-to-day items. And you can just think about that when you drive down the road. You hop in your car, which has a steel frame or an aluminum frame, copper harnesses, aluminum rims, a catalytic converter, right? That's the only precious metal that you're really going to see on that. Yeah, there's going to be some gold in some of the microprocessor chips, but not enough. So you're driving down the highway, and what do you see? A steel sign that has an aluminum stop sign attached to it. On the highway, you might see a big overhang with aluminum signs on a steel frame, steel guardrails, copper wire running the electric, right? These are all things that are base commodities, base commercial metals, and those are going to really drive over the next year and a half And a lot of people are going to ask me what I think about the infrastructure plan that they're putting into place. I just wrote about this. We'll be publishing it in the next couple of weeks. I don't think the infrastructure plan is going to have nearly any impact on the scrap world. When you look at the amount of dollars that they want to spend versus the physical infrastructure they want to work on, and then you take labor rates out of there, it's only going to be $150 to $200 billion worth of metals. And while we talk about monopoly money sometimes inside of this fake, tax world that they just create money, $200 billion worth of metals is really a drop in the bucket when you compare it to worldwide consumption and worldwide supply. So I don't think that these infrastructure plans are nearly going to push things the way that people are going to think they are. And as day-to-day scrappers, you are not going to have an ability to scrap a bridge or to scrap guardrail. Those are going to be going towards the contracted winners that are going to be replacing the roads and the bridges and the tunnels. They are going to be responsible for getting rid of that material. And a lot of these government contracts are actually written where the government gets a rebate for the scrap. So they know what the bridge weighs. They can look up current prices and they can apply that. So these contractors that are going to do the work are going to be forced to give the government, their rebate back from the steel. And that's still not going to help the day-to-day scrappers. But what is going to help the day-to-day scrappers is continuing to post your prices. By you posting more prices and helping us create more transparency in the market, we are going to force scrap yards to post their prices so you don't have to show up and wonder. We as a unit are going to force scrap yards to see that information is power and it's key to growth long term. We have a question that I wanted to answer while we're on it.
So Tony from Quebec.
Hey, Tony from Quebec.
Said he's getting $4.10 for number one copper and he wants to know what you're paying.
Sure. So we are paying $3.85 a pound for number one Bear Bright today. That's in US dollars. So your 410 number, I don't know what the quick conversion ratio is, maybe 350. I know the Canadian dollar is worth a little more than the US dollar. I could probably ask Siri on my watch and figure that out, but we'll get that number quick.
324.
So you're getting 324 US dollar. We're paying 385 US dollar. So, there's a price comparison, Tony. I have seen some prices reported in Canada around that same level. And you're always welcome to drive down to Rockaway, New Jersey, although those Canadian borders are iffy right now with vaccines and all that fun stuff. But we did have a really nice scrapper named Brett drive up from South Carolina just 2 days ago to Rockaway Recycling. He's been following us online since he was 13 years old. And it was a real pleasure not only to buy material from him, but for someone to tell us that what we're doing has helped him make more money, enough to the point where he took an 8-hour drive up here to sell us different types of material. And Brett, if you're watching this, we want to thank you for taking the trip up here. And don't forget, if you want to sell any material to Rockaway Recycling, just email or text us through all of our different mediums, and we'd be happy to buy it from you. Now let's go right into what's in this bucket. Our bucket last week had a keyboard in it, so we talked about some low-grade items. This week, for 2 minutes, I'm going to reach in. I promise I don't know what's in here. It's very light, so it can't be lead. And we'll see what's inside so I can start to talk about it. And if there's anything that you ever want me to talk about, you can always reach out to our team here and we will actively talk about it. So right off the bat, it looks like a spear, and this is not a spear. This is a drill bit, and this is actually a piece of carbide. Now, this carbide is very dense, it's very heavy, and it's very sharp, but why it gets recycled is because these very sharp edges, there's actually a chip in this one. These are used in high temperature and high alloy machining processes by machine shops. Now, a lot of machine shops do work for different government contracts or larger manufacturing contracts, and sometimes they have to replace these drill bits after each use. Sometimes they can use them for X period of time, and it's more expensive at times, maybe not in the future, to fix or sharpen one of these than it is to replace it. And I'm going to hope that this shows, but right here on the camera, you can see a couple of nicks out of these bits. And when there are nicks on these, when they start to spin really fast, they're not going to cut as clean, especially when they go below the surface. If it was just the tip going above, it would be okay. But once you start having it go kind of below a surface, you're going to have inconsistent edges, which is going to cause sloppy work, rejected products. But these carbide tips are not the ones that you're going to use day to day. They're not bought at Home Depot or at Lowe's. They're very, very dense. Carbide is actually an alloy. It's not a metal. Inside of it is tungsten. That's the primary metal. And most carbide tips and bits have between 80 and 90% tungsten. If you're looking to get pricing on it, please contact Rockaway Recycling. We're buying carbide nationally. You can always mail it to us. We can provide different containers for safe shipping as well as shipping labels. And if you're looking to learn more about it, we have blogs and videos and other posts that we can link to. Now, while carbide is heavy, so is steel, and so is copper in the right amounts. Now, I had someone recently ask me about pricing and about how if they thought driving to get more money was always worth it. And let me give you an example. We had a customer here at Rockaway Recycling that told us about a scrapyard that was about 2 hours away from here that was paying 20 cents more per pound for copper. This gentleman had about 500 pounds of Bear Bright, asked us to match the price. We weren't comfortable with the numbers fluctuating the way that they were. And I explained to him, for a 2-hour drive each way, let's call it a 5-hour round trip, is it worth driving an extra hour to make the extra $100? Now, if you're working with a really good yard, and we ended up splitting the price with him, he was fine with the $50 that he made extra by asking a question. And that's something that you really want to think about and learn from blogs and videos that we've talked about. Asking questions for your scrapyard, the worst thing that they can say is no. The best thing that they can say is yes. But most likely it's going to be a negotiation, just like in the old days when you could go to a car dealership and negotiate for car prices. Nowadays, car dealerships don't have any in stock, so the price is kind of the price. But you can negotiate with scrapyards. And if you work with a good scrapyard, you have a good history with them, and you don't cause any problems always asking for more money. And that is a problem. If you're asking for more money every time you show up to the yard, we've told people kindly not to come back, because if you're not going to allow the scrapyard to make money, they have people to pay, bills, insurance, then you're not going to be doing good business. But once in a while, when you have a real solid load of material that you've worked really hard on, you either should call or email or use the iScrap app to get some national prices, just to give you kind of a price point so you can compare markets and then learn about them a little better. Now, don't forget, last month we had an awesome Patreon group that joined our club, was able to support us, and by supporting us, gives us the ability to make you more content, from blogs to videos to different posts that go out there. So if you want to become a Patreon supporter and help us make more videos, please, we would love the support. We'll post a link. You'll have the ability to get more videos and tips that other scrappers wouldn't get, and just help yourself in the entire scrap metal industry. And believe it or not, we also give away more DeWalt tools almost monthly through Patreon, so you'll be able to really tune into those as well. Now, scrappers, with the market going the way that they are, aluminum at 13-year highs, we've had copper regaining ground, steel prices relatively stable, and because the copper and aluminum have gone up, things like ACRs and brass that are different mixtures of metals or alloys have also increased. So you should see higher prices there. Now, I would like to sign off right now, but I will give you a very big warning if you're inside of the catalytic converter world. We have seen massive price decreases in the catalytic converter world. We'll have an update coming in the next day or so that we'll be posting exclusively through the app. So if you haven't downloaded it for free, make sure you do. And when you go to that home screen, you'll see that exclusive content coming out there free for you to view. Just got to download the app so you can see it. But we have seen massive price decreases in the catalytic converter world. And if you tune in and you get some notifications the next couple of days, you'll be able to listen to one of those pieces. Scrappers, this is Tom from iScrap. Thank you so much for downloading, responding, reporting prices, letting us know about different loads, being active on our social groups. Anything we can do to help you make more money, let us know. And until next week, Scrappers, I'll scrap you later.
Thanks for checking out our scrap videos. By becoming a Patreon supporter today, you'll be entered into monthly giveaways for tools and other products to help you make more money with your scrap.